The honourable member for Calgary, Mackay, Nose Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supports for persons with disabilities are needed now more than ever. Recently, I learned that the turnover rate of PDD staff is 40% every 6 months, meaning many families have a new caseworker at least twice a year, and caseworkers are already stretched with 200+ cases. This is not sustainable. To the Minister of Community and Social Services, after 2.5 years of your mandate, why is the caseload still so high for PDD caseworkers?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister of Community and Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, member, for the question. Our government is protecting and improving the supports Albertans with disabilities depend on, and that is why, Mr. Speaker, despite tough economic time, we have added funds so that people can get the support they need in a timely fashion.
For supplemental.
Mr. Speaker, the Alberta Party has learned that new intakes into PDD are funded at 2013 rates, and people who rely on PDD services are in dire need of predictable service. Further, advocates report that when asked, the government has been unclear regarding how many dollars are allocated for certain services and how much can be spent to provide them. To the Premier, when can the government guarantee that PDD funding will directly reach people who need it most?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. PDD program has two different streams, family managed stream and through agencies. 85% of the funding reaches to Albertans directly through service providers, and 15% is family managed, where family gets the funding and they get to hire the staff and services. That's how this funding gets to Albertans.
Supplemental.
Recently, I learned that PDD staff are required to submit personal outcome index reports on a quarterly basis, but do not receive feedback in return. I also learned that there is not a clear line of communication between Alberta Health Services and PDD, despite the fact that a liaison between the two was announced. To the Premier, these are only two examples of communication breakdowns that negatively impact PDD clients. How will you fix this?
Great.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm proud of our record when it comes to working with PDD. We have worked with community on all issues that matter to them, and we are taking a cross-ministry approach. We are working with our partners within government and within community to make sure that community gets what they need, and we are involving them in all decision-making. With respect to communication, Premier Council on Persons with Disabilities is one example that had got 15 members in a long time, first time under Overwatch. A new disability advocate, which will make sure that their voices are reflected in the same way.